Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, guys, I'm back, and it is Tuesday, November 19th, and it is 8:01 p.m. I've been having a little bit of technical difficulties. Yesterday, of course, I recorded for over an hour, and then I realized for some reason it hadn't recorded, and tonight, again, I was recording and I realized it had shut off. Now, I don't know why, because everything is set up the way it's always been set up, but I'll have to keep an eye on it tonight just to make sure, because I don't want that to happen again until I figure out what is actually happening. But let's go ahead and jump into the Q-related news. We do have one Q post today, and I am going to be doing a separate video for that little post. So probably I'm going to be doing 3 videos tonight. That's the way it looks like right now. And I do have coffee donors and Patreon and some snail mail that I need to go over, but I realized when I sat down, I didn't bring the list and I didn't want to disturb the cat. I know, I'm a sap, but I'm going to get that for the very next video, because I would never want anyone to think that I was not appreciative. I really am. And although I'm very thankful to those that support this channel, I do realize that not everybody's able to. So please don't ever feel guilty. I know people sometimes will send me a comment or whatever saying, oh, I wish I could. Don't feel bad. I know we all have different financial situations, and sometimes it's just not, I can't support everybody I want to support either. I wish I could, but I can't. So I understand, and you're always welcome here, regardless, always. So let's just jump right in. I wish that the video yesterday had recorded, because it was much more timely than it is now, but we'll go over that, and I've got some fresher news to go over, and also the Q post. So let's get started. Now, I want to start here. And probably by now you've heard this, but I do want to make sure, because this is exactly what I believe happened. It says exclusive, and this is from Natural News, but the original source was Alex Jones, and he had a contact in the White House, apparently. Now, I know some of you don't agree with Alex Jones. I don't agree with everything he says either, but he has broken some very, very good stories, like Bohemian Grove, for one, and lots. And, you know, I don't know. I know that they have really censored him. So to me, that means that he must be saying something that threatens the establishment. So anyway, having said that, let's look into this. Exclusive, President Trump makes unscheduled stop at military hospital to undergo battery of tests for possible deliberate poisoning of food with time-delayed chemical agent. Food tester gravely ill. White House connected source. Now, this is from yesterday, so it's not all that old of news. And of course, we know that this just happened on Saturday, that President Trump went to the Walter Reed Medical Center. And the odd thing about that was that nobody at the medical center knew he was coming. That is odd, because usually, you know, it's set up in advance. And usually if you're going to go in for a battery of a test, it's not on the weekend, because most doctors are not, you know, available on the weekends. Yes, they're on call and so forth. But, you know, if you've ever been in a hospital, you always have to wait until Monday for them to do anything, because the weekend is just kind of basically a skeleton crew at the hospital. So it's odd that he would go in on a Saturday. Now, he threw out a tweet, and I felt, now, I believe President Trump, but I also believe disinformation is necessary. And he threw out a tweet about visiting somebody that was ill at Walter Reed Medical. I knew right away that that was not the case, that this was one of those times where, you know, disinformation is necessary. So I thought to myself, no, he's going there for something, whether it's for testing, whether it's for chest pains, as some people surmised. Now, I don't believe it was. I believe they made that up. But I knew that he was going there for some reason that was odd. It was definitely unscheduled. So let's go ahead now, having said that. All right, exclusive natural news report via Alex Jones at Infowars.com. The president's unscheduled stop at the Walter Reed Military Hospital on Saturday involved a battery of tests to determine whether the president was exposed to a chemical agent that is suspected of being introduced into his food, says a White House connected source who shared details with Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Now, I also want to mention that this isn't the first time, and it's going to go into this a little bit, but if you will remember when they were in Scotland, a Secret Service member who actually was additionally one of his food testers died very suddenly when they were in Scotland. So we're going to get into that. So this isn't that far-fetched, if you ask me. In fact, I happen to believe this is true. All right, medical staff at Walter Reed did not get a staff-wide notice about a presidential visit to the medical center in Bethesda, Maryland, ahead of Trump's arrival, according to that source, reports Fox59.com. Typically, Walter Reed's medical staff would get a general notice about a VIP visit to the medical center ahead of a presidential visit, notifying them of certain closures at the facilities. That did not happen this time, indicating the visit was a non-routine visit and scheduled last minute, as in an emergency. Because that only makes sense. The president doesn't just show up someplace, because there are precautions that have to be made. I remember seeing, I met President Ronald Reagan at a World Congress for Evangelism way back. I was very young, but I remember even then all the protocols and everything. There was sharpshooters along all of, like where the motorcade went, there was sharpshooters all along. They had metal detectors. They checked every one of us, scanned us before we went in to the forum. So I know that they don't just show up somewhere. There's a lot of precautions that have to be taken. So that is very interesting that they didn't have any notice that he was going to come. Medical staff at Walter Reed, I just read that, excuse me. This action was initiated by the sudden onset of symptoms experienced by the president's food tester, who was reported stricken with such severe symptoms that urgent medical tests were conducted on that person while the president was diverted to Walter Reed for a priority medical examination involving a battery of chemical tests. The president's motorcade drove to the medical center unannounced, with reporters under direction not to report his movement until they arrived Saturday at Walter Reed. Interesting, don't you think? Reports Fox 59. A separate source familiar with the situation described Trump's visit as abnormal, but added that Trump, 73, appeared to be in good health late Friday. So, I'm sorry, if he was in good health late Friday, why would there be an emergency visit to Walter Reed on Saturday unannounced, unplanned? Why would they instruct the reporters to not report on the president's whereabouts until he arrived at the medical center? That's interesting. It's all very interesting. Why did the president's food tester get so gravely ill? Must have been something he ate, right? So none of this is routine. None of this is normal. And if he appeared to be in good health Friday, then that would suggest it would be something with, an onset like poisoning. Now they're saying it was a delayed onset. So I don't know exactly what that means technically, other than it was a delayed onset. But let's continue. Fox 59 confirms that Trump needed tests which were not available at the White House clinic facility, saying several experts familiar with the White House medical procedure said that Trump can get routine lab work done at the White House on-site clinic, indicating Trump needed tests that can't be done there. So there is a clinic at the White House for, in case the president falls ill, in case one of the staff falls ill, there is a staffed on-site clinic there that's available 7 days a week. And I would assume that most tests and most on-site lab work can be done there. So it was not something routine at all. According to the White House connected source who spoke directly with Alex Jones, chemical testing confirmed the presence of a molecular byproduct of a potential toxin, although it is important to note that molecular byproducts can come from many different sources, and it's not always possible to determine the molecular structure of the original molecule from which the byproduct was derived. The president is reportedly fine and did not experience the same symptoms that are reported to have overcome the food tester. We currently do not know the condition of the food tester. No additional details have been made public about which tests were conducted on the president and what chemical byproduct was found. Alex Jones told Natural News that he believes this incident may have been a deep state attack using an exotic chemical poison with a delayed activation signature. He underscored the importance of people understanding that we are in the climate of civil war, and this kind of attempted poisoning is par for the course, historically speaking, when they want to take out a leader and make it appear to be death by natural causes. InfoWars has previously reported that Roger Stone survived an attempted poisoning and that deep state operatives who had infiltrated the White House were poisoning the president's water in an effort to impair his cognitive function and energy. Now, why would they want to do that? Why would anybody want to sneak in and just poison enough to impair his cognitive function and his energy? He's a notoriously high energy person. I don't know any 73-year-old in the world that could compete with him in terms of energy. But if they could impair his cognitive function, it would make it so much easier for them to declare that, well, we have to take the president out of office because of Amendment 25. He's no longer capable of holding office because his functioning is impaired. So that would be the reasoning behind that. In 2018, a U.S. Secret Service agent traveling with President Trump in Scotland died from a stroke. U.S. Today reported a Secret Service agent traveling as part of President Donald Trump's security detail died Tuesday in Scotland after suffering a severe stroke. The agent, a 19-year veteran of the agency, suffered the stroke on Sunday and was treated in Scotland. And he later died. And very little was made of that. And I wondered at the time, because I remember when this happened thinking, something not right about that. InfoWars, Millie Weaver reported today that the U.S. Secret Service agent who died from a stroke in Scotland was also a food tester for the president. Gee, what a coincidence. He was reportedly in good health before his sudden death. This is how power behind the throne always tries to take the people out very quietly so that they don't become martyrs, explained Alex Jones during his InfoWars broadcast. It is common knowledge that there have been multiple attempts on the president's life. In a recent speech, the Federalist Society Bill Barr warned that the lawless left is resorting to a troubling array of tactics in their effort to try to destroy President Trump and overthrow the republic. From Barr, immediately after President Trump won election, opponents inaugurated what they call the resistance, and they rallied around an explicit strategy of using every tool and maneuver to sabotage the functioning of the executive branch and his administration. Now, resistance is the language used to describe insurgency against rule imposed by an occupying military power. It obviously connotes that the government is not legitimate. This is very dangerous and indeed incendiary notation to import into the politics of a democratic republic. They essentially see themselves engaged in a war to cripple by any means necessary a duly elected government. And that was from Attorney General Barr. And I think that was yesterday or I think it was the day before that he actually stated that. To carry out chemical poisoning operations, deep state operatives have access to a wide array of chemical poisons with a wide variety of biochemical mechanisms. The fact that Democrats' attempted impeachment of President Trump is rapidly collapsing, combined with the extremely disappointing lineup of Democratic candidates for the 2020 election, may have motivated anti-Trump deep state operatives to escalate their war to the level of carrying out an attempted assassination, Jones explained to Natural News earlier today. And of course, not only is the impeachment narrative collapsing, but we see that they are closing in on SCHIFF, and we will see in a minute, we will be visiting more of that, but they are closing in on SCHIFF, and things are getting, it's not looking too good for him. Not looking too good for him at all. And plus, we have a report coming out today that the AG report, the IG report, the Inspector General's report by Horowitz, is coming out first week of December. That is the news now, that it will be coming out the first week of December, and he will be testifying before Congress. That is Horowitz, Inspector General Horowitz will be testifying before Congress on December, I want to say 12th, but it could be the 11th. Let me see the date here. What is December? Let me, wrong way. Hang on. Well, the 11th is a Wednesday and the 12th is a Thursday. I can't remember now, but it's one of those days. It's either December 11th or December 12th that he will be testifying before Congress. So we know that there's a lot in that. So anyway, let's go on now. It is becoming increasingly apparent to all Americans that the Democrats and the deep state work in concert and that they abide by no laws, ethics, or morality. There is nothing they won't do, it seems, to destroy the president and seize power, even if it means carrying out a chemical assassination of the president. The entire impeachment fiasco, as a matter of fact, is the deep state's attempt to overturn the will of the American voters and install their own leader, who will protect the deep state rather than expose it. That's exactly what is happening as well. You don't want to assassinate Trump because it turns him into a martyr, Alex Jones explained about the deep state's methods. So you kill him slowly, or you drug him with chemicals to make him act loopy, so then you can remove him via the 25th Amendment. And the 25th Amendment, in case any of you do not know or have forgotten, is an amendment whereby if the president is not in his right mind and able to continue duties, he can be removed. So I don't think we have to worry about that with President Trump right now. And I don't suspect we will unless they succeed. This episode follows President Trump's recent activation of United States Marines Reserve units as part of an urgent deployment that specifically names an emergency within the United States and ordered units to be ready to activate in response to threats in the homeland that will come with little or no warning. The actual language from the order, emphasis added, is below here. In accordance with IAW REFA, this MAR-admin provides guidance for the activation of Reserve Component RC Marines under 12304A, Title 10 U.S. Code, following a request for federal assistance in response to a major disaster or emergency within the United States. Requests for federal assistance will come with little warning. As required, the Marine Corps must rapidly mobilize RC units and personnel, IAW, this MAR-admin, in order to respond to threats in the homeland. According to the multiple independent media reports, the U.S. Marines remain loyal to the president, even as other branches of the United States military appear to have been at least partially infiltrated by anti-Trump operatives willing to commit treason to overthrow our constitutional republic. Former President Barack Obama fired hundreds of pro-Constitution military leaders, and I'm sure we remember that. We all remember that very well. I know I do. I was very concerned about it at the time. So yeah, he fired the pro-Constitution military leaders while installing hundreds of obedient, globalist-leaning military bureaucrats into positions of influence within the Pentagon and various branches of the military. Excuse me for a moment because I do want to check that it's still recording, and it appears to be, so we're okay. I just don't want to, but the lighting seems off, but you know what? We can deal with that. As long as it's still recording. All right, now let's go back. So, prominent left-wing influencers are now preparing America for the elimination of President Trump by calling for peace ahead of their own left-wing plot to murder the president. Over just the last few days, left-leaning TV personnel Bill Maher, who has for years spread malicious smears against conservatives, Christians, and Trump supporters, suddenly claimed he was fearful of the possibility of a civil war, saying we all now need to learn to live with one another, with each other. Similarly, former President Barack Obama is now warning leftists that they've gone too extreme, with their positions now being rejected by an increasing number of American voters. I thought that was an odd thing for Barack Obama to say. I really did. That, oh, guys, you're going a little bit too left there. All right. What are you doing? He's got his little feet in the back of my neck there. All right. So, these coordinated public statements are, of course, a part of the radical left's attempts to control the narrative before they initiate a kinetic civil war themselves, likely unleashing Antifa brown shirts onto the streets after assassinating the president to remove him from power. That's why it's so important that we continue to pray. A large spontaneous uprising of pro-Trump patriots is likely to occur if the president is killed or otherwise removed from power. Millions of Americans have nearly reached the breaking point in terms of frustration with a lawless deep state, and those Americans seem ready and willing to defend their republic from the enemies of America who are operating from within. All Americans must prepare for more attempts to assassinate President Trump or forcibly remove him from power. The coordinated conspiracy to overthrow the United States of America and criminalize conservatives has now spread across big tech, the left-wing media, elements of the Pentagon, and the judiciary. Civil war seems imminent, and there appear to be no boundaries or limits to the desperation of the deep state. So, that is that. And I do have another source here. Let me go back here. I do have another source, which is from Infowars.com, which is the original source. But I felt that, Natural News did a much better job of fleshing it out. So that is the one that I highlighted here. But I'm leaving the second one in because I will upload this to Patreon and these notes, broadcast notes for today, and you'll be able to check it out at your leisure. All right, now we're going to go to this thread because, well, you'll want me to. Once you see what it is, I think you'll be glad that I did. Now, this is from GLP Fen, and good person to follow. Now, Adam, this is the thread. I'm just going to start. It's a long thread, but it's riveting. Adam Schiff involved in illegal sodomite drug den exposed. Number one, there is no surprise that the Democratic Party, the same party funded by pedophile kingpin Jeffrey Epstein, is again involved in a murderous meth-fueled tryst with one of their leaders. What's disturbing, though, isn't Schiff's homosexual activities, nor his taste for chocolate. We all know what that means. America is a free country, and that's why we have 50 plus flavors of ice cream. What's disturbing is that he's living two lives: by day, a congressman and a family man, and by night, drug-induced party time in West Hollywood. Now, I don't know, is Schiff married? I can't imagine anybody being married to him. Ew. But I don't know, because she's saying he's a family man. I've never heard anything about whether he has a wife or whatever, but I guess it's irrelevant. Officially, Schiff is under investigation. Woohoo! Yeah. See the summary from True Pundit. Embattled Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is now the target of a federal investigation focused on the congressman's more than frequent trips to Ed Buck's drug house. According to a Clinton whistleblower and insider, oh, come on back. He was keeping my neck warm up there, you know. Anyway, embattled Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is now the target of a federal investigation focused on the congressman's more than frequent trips to Ed Buck's drug house. According to a Clinton whistleblower and insider, Buck is a high-profile millionaire Democratic benefactor who has contributed and bundled large amounts of cash to Democrats, including Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and the list goes on and on. Buck was arrested last month after a nearly dead man escaped from Buck's home after Buck allegedly plied him with meth. Larry Nichols is the consummate D.C. insider and operator. In fact, Bill Clinton, in his biography, described Nichols as a dangerous man. Clinton would know because Nichols spearheaded many of Clinton's political black bag ops in Arkansas and D.C. For the Clinton cartel and beyond, before he turned a whistleblower, Nichols revealed on his weekly news show on Crowdsource the Truth that federal agents have traced Congressman Schiff at Buck's drug mansion over a dozen times. My problem is I read very, very quickly, and when I'm not reading out loud, I read insanely quickly. I can get through a book like in no time. But when I read that fast and speak it, I mangle some words. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, so he's been traced to his drug mansion over a dozen times. And now they want to know what Schiff was doing there. As do I. As do you. Attorney General William Barr is looking into why Adam Schiff was at Buck's place 16 times, said insider Larry Nichols. The reason Barr is obligated to look into Adam Schiff and the fact that he was there 16 times is because, as a member of Congress, if he saw at his time at Buck's any illegal activity, he is obligated by law to report it. And if he didn't report it, then he is guilty of a crime. 2 men previously died at Buck's mansion from drug overdoses. Whoops, going a little too fast here. But Buck was never charged by the LA police. Gee, I wonder why. Why? Why wouldn't he be charged? Finally, Buck was charged in September with running a drug house and doping up victims and then allegedly acting out his twisted sexual fantasies on the incapacitated victims, according to prosecutors. Buck targeted homeless men, according to prosecutors, just like with the Pedostine case. This is about human trafficking and who knows what else. Trump has said often these people are sick, and we're starting to get a sense of how. Deep and murky the swamp is. Yes, indeed. All we know is what evidence the police found and reported, but as stated above, if the police found evidence of drug use and made arrests, how was Schiff not able to see any of this at his 16 visits? Well, I didn't know they were doing. Yeah, they had needles sticking out of their arms, but I didn't know. Alrighty. So how was Schiff not able to see any of this at his 16 visits? Perhaps he's not a very good detective. He thought all these homeless guys lying around with needles and crack pipes were in fact diabetics vaping with some trendy new tool that looks like a crack pipe. Right. Okay, we can give him that. If you don't know it, maybe you don't know what it looks like. But if he's that oblivious to facts, is he then disqualified to be the sole witness and lead plaintiff and judge, jury in the impeachment trial? Right. If he can't even figure out after 16 visits to his friend's home that something's going on, and this is the man that is in charge of the impeachment, one would think that in the least his being under investigation for a mysterious murder of Ed Buck, who would have been the most credible witness to what was really going on in West Hollywood. There's even an article in the failing New York Times about this, although they obviously limit the amount of casual connections made between Schiff and Buck. It's clear why Schiff is leading the impeachment coup publicly, because the Democrats' strategy since Trump has been elected has been the old accuse your opponent of what you are guilty of. And the public will be confused. Their strategy works on brainless idiots, and there are many in America, but there are also a lot of smart people, for example, Zero Hedge readers, who know the world isn't as seen on TV. And I would like to add that my listeners, there's some pretty smart cookies. I'm telling you, they really are. You really are. I know that because a lot of you correct me on things that I'm wrong about, and that's good because it takes us all. We are the news, not me. It's not I am the news. We are the news. Okay, so let's skip the fact that Schiff was close with Buck and not only visited this drug den 17 times, they were constantly together at rallies, parties, social events, political fundraisers, and other events. Serial killers. Yes, I would tend to agree with that, to tell you the truth. I do think that it's going to come out. Maybe they'll just get him with one murder. I don't know, but it's going to come out that he is a killer. And from all, it appears now that that is why Anthony Bourdain was murdered. He didn't commit suicide. He was murdered because he witnessed Schiff raping a young black boy. That is what, that's what is going around right now. Now, maybe it's not true, but it sure sounds likely to me, especially when you really look into it a little bit. It's very, very possible. Anyway, I'm not sure if I've got anything further about that or not, but we'll get into it at some point. Ed Buck has been proven to be a bad guy. That doesn't make Schiff a criminal by association. Well, actually, you know what? You rise or fall by the level of your association. And that's true. If you want to hang out with drug dealers and, lay around in crack houses, you're going to fall to that level. If you hang around with people that are educated, and I like to be around people that are smarter than me because I learn from them, and really, I do, because I know that principle that you rise or fall to the level of your association. Doesn't mean that everybody you have in your life has to be smarter than you, but I like that. I like to be around people that make me feel stupid, not because they're calling me stupid or whatever, but I just look at them and I think, my gosh, you're so knowledgeable. And, maybe it's something that I'm not knowledgeable in and I want to learn, but we rise or fall to the level of our association. So really, there is something to that guilty by association. There really is, because if I knew my friends, somebody that I hung out with all the time, was a drug dealer, well, first of all, I would know that. Second of all, I wouldn't hang out with them because I wouldn't want to be associated with that. So there you go. So Ed Buck has been proven to be a bad guy. That doesn't make Schiff a criminal by association, but let's compare this to the sick and twisted the sick and twisted scene of Pedostein, who started the Clinton Global Initiative and Clinton Foundation. And yes, we're talking about Epstein there. As asked by the LA Times if they knew he was a pedo psycho, why did Democrats continue to take his money? If we use Occam's razor, the most simple scenario is the correct one. They were close friends. And why does one make friends with person A instead of person B? The answer would be common grounds, common hobbies, or a shared predilection for big helpings of chocolate ice cream. Bingo. According to Wikipedia, after moving to West Hollywood, California, Buck ran unsuccessfully for city council in 2007. He formerly served on the steering committee of the Stonewall Democratic Club. He has donated nearly $30,000 to Democratic candidates like Hillary Clinton, Lou, Pete Aguilar, Adam B. Schiff, Ted, and Raja, I don't even know what that last name is, Krishna Morthy, I don't know who that is, as the Getting Things Done PAC. In civil lawsuits, Buck has been named as a human trafficker, rapist, and performing strange and nearly ritualistic acts on homeless men in Los Angeles, mostly black. Does this sound familiar? Spirit cooking, anyone? But was Buck really so bad? According to Gay City News, this is what the police concluded. An influential turned disgraced gay Democratic donor who has been linked to multiple overdose-related deaths of vulnerable black gay men in his Los Angeles home was arrested on September 17th after yet another man overdosed in his home last week. Prosecutors in Los Angeles announced. The LA County District Attorney's Office said 65-year-old Ed Buck, who has steered many thousands of dollars into the war chests of Democratic candidates over the years, was charged with felony counts of battery causing serious injury, administering meth, and maintaining a drug house after he allegedly injected a man with meth in his West Hollywood apartment on September 11th. Make no mistake, Schiff is not a mastermind or an Illuminati leader. He is a puppet, and like all puppets, he has a weak spot they can press on. How Pedestein's blackmail worked was obvious, as is the gay drug den. Who knows how many queer politicians had a romp there while at an LA Democrat convention. To Trump's credit, he hasn't mentioned any of this when he's been squaring off with Schiff, an honorable tactic, but it's a smarter plan, actually. He's allowing the swamp to sink in its own filth. What happened with CNN? Trump certainly didn't plan on Project Veritas and the Expose CNN event, but now he has evidence for a clear lawsuit against CNN. Perhaps this is what he's waiting for with Schiff. It seems like wherever you look into something with this guy, someone is injured, dead, bleeding, or arrested. Even on the comedy show with Stephen Colbert, a prank bottle smashing turned bloody, with Colbert being rushed to the nurse, but there was nothing showbiz about what happened next. The bottle had a sharp edge, and Colbert, slightly wounded, was hurried off to the nurse. Now it's at this point in the story that an ominous shadow falls over the congressman's face. A lot of others have been interviewed on the show, but only one member has actually made him, Colbert, bleed. Schiff says, his voice ringing with a steely, dirty, hairy note of pride in the payback. Colbert's injury proved to be superficial. Then there's this anti-Schiff article. The House Intelligence Committee reenactment of the McCarthy hearings dramatized Marx's favorite aphorism that history repeats itself, the first time as tragedy, the second as farce. The only thing this circus was lacking was a ringmaster. Representative Adam Schiff rising to declare that I have in my hands a list. War was on the minds and lips of the Democrats. Representative Denny Heck compared Hillary Clinton's loss to the 9/11 attacks because the killing of over 2,000 people on American soil is just like the publication of emails that exposed the corruption at the heart of the Democratic Party politics. Oh, and the attack didn't end on Election Day because it's that a Russian hiding under your bed, if political humor, and the attack didn't end on Election Day because isn't that a Russian hiding under your bed? If political humor, albeit unintentional, is your shtick, there was plenty of that. My own favorite was Representative Jackie Speer from where else but California, likening Vladimir Putin to a tarantula spider who has ensnared in his web a whole list of Trump supporters, including Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Echoing a common phrase at the hearing, she declared that alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election was an act of war, although she gave no hint as to when the shooting will start. Of course, going with the Democrat accuse your enemies of what you are guilty of strategy. As it turns out, Schiff has his own Ukraine military contact that he's been working on for a while now with fellow brother of the tribe, Igor Pasternak. According to Fox News, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, who has played a leading role in investigating the Trump-Ukraine scandal, is facing questions about his own connection to a Soviet-born businessman who has raised money for his campaign and whose company has received lucrative defense contracts from Ukraine's government. That man is Igor Pasternak, the founder and CEO of Worldwide Aeros Corp, which makes blimps for military and commercial customers. His business has also been involved in weapons manufacturing, working with the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense to procure a modified version of the M4 and M16 rifles, according to reports. But even as you Google Adam Schiff, Igor Pasternak, you're going to get fake news sites like Snopes and other nonsense. Only Zero Hedge has re-reported this important story. For a full read, click here in summary. Although this widely cited 2013 fundraiser was in Washington, D.C., Igor Pasternak's company headquarters is in Montebello, California, on the east side of Los Angeles. It's near Schiff's CA 28 congressional district, which lies to the north of it and encompasses major suburbs like Burbank and a chunk of Glendale. Pasternak started the company in Ukraine in 1922, but immigrated to the U.S. in 1994 and established his California-based company, Aeros Worldwide Aeros Corporation, shortly thereafter. Aeros makes lighter-than-air, LTA, airships via its Aeroscraft arm. That is its signature niche in the general aviation industry as well. At its entree to defense its entrance to defense contracting, Aeros has had contracts with the U.S. Defense Department to develop surveillance airships and cargo delivery airships. Pasternak, an engineer by training, has had a lifelong interest in what can be done with LTA vehicles. This story about him, as it stands right now, is that he did little, if anything, in Ukraine in the 20 years between 1994 and 2014. Then, when the Maidan Revolution erupted in Ukraine, in the late 2013 and early 2014, he went back to Ukraine and started cultivating ties with the defense industry there. At that point, as is obvious from the document announcing the 2013 fundraiser, Pasternak was already giving aid and comfort to Adam Schiff. In the Ukrainian political sorting after the invasion and partitioning of Crimea, one of the major developments in Kiev has been reorganizing the government-directed defense industry conglomerate known by its acronym. Oh my gosh, you want me to pronounce that? Ukroboronprom. Yeah, that's the right pronunciation. I'm sure of it. I doubt it. All right. Ukroboronprom coordinates the arms industry in Ukraine in the same manner as similar entities in Russia, China, and a number of other countries. Its centralized nature and arms portfolio means it is always rife with corruption. But at the moment, the point is simply to introduce it to the reader. In the course of establishing project-worthy contacts in Ukraine, Pasternak's Aeroscraft had a couple of scores that, from the Aeros perspective, were big ones. One is a joint project with an Ukroboronprom subsidiary industry group, Ukroboron Service, to produce a Ukrainian version of the M4 used by the U.S. Armed Forces. All right. That project is eye-catching because it involves producing rifles, not something Aeros has a background in. Frankly, this is the type of reporting that should be done by CNN and the traditional mainstream media. Expose CNN and the Project Veritas videos were in many respects a disappointment. We all knew CNN was a biased creator of left-wing conspiracies and propaganda. What it will do, however, is serve as a single proof that Trump's tweets are not conspiracy theories any more than the fake impeachment is a conspiracy theory. Actually, it's the Democrats who are the authors of conspiracy theories such as Osama bin Laden is responsible for 9/11, the fake Trump impeachment scandal, and a host of others. Anyway, it's honorable that Project Veritas does this guerrilla reporting, but it's shameful that we've come to this in the United States. As we teach, this is kind of a media control. As we teach, this is the kind of media control that exists in countries like Russia, China, and others, where anti-government provocateurs must resort to such ridiculous maneuvers such as hidden cameras. Let's revisit the question of the connection between Schiff and Buck. 17 visits to an illegal drug den where several young men died seems in the least unusual. If Buck was simply a donor, why not just collect checks like they do from all the other donors? Why the personal visits? American Thinker is thinking the same thing. Perhaps Schiff should vet his own donors who have more serious offenses before accusing Trump of anything. Now there's Ed Buck, reportedly a pervert with a thing for getting young black male prostitutes high through date rape drugs and involuntary meth injections, with a second dead body turning up in one of his apartments yesterday. The first death a year and a half ago resulted in the cops letting it be called an accidental overdose, as gay and lesbian activists argued something worse seemed to be happening. There certainly were cries that Buck was let off easy because of his $53,000 donations to Democrats in political whatever. Since Schiff is so loud about wanting to get Trump, maybe it's time for him to start answering some questions about this most important of his campaign donors and why he has allowed himself to go into political debt to such a person. Now that we've examined the facts, let's take a look at one last anomaly and chatter on the dark web. And this isn't such dark chatter because it was Q himself that brought this up. So Schiff's, a helicopter crashed with owners of the Standard Hotel where apparently tons of bad things happened. So the witnesses were killed in an accident. These guys know how you have to make it look like an accident. Schiff's district and Dark Web says the Standard Hotel owners were on the copter. Dark Web said the helicopter people had dirt on Schiff in secret meetings in the hotel. QAnon. Schiff's district and Dark Web says the Standard Hotel owners were on the copter. Dark Web said, okay, this is the exact same thing. She posted twice. Now, here is where things get interesting. So we know that the deep state is tied to the occult. Pedo ring, human trafficking at Standard Hotel, Adam Schiff's district. He knew he's trying to cut a deal because he knows he's grass and on. The intel just dropped. The intel just dropped is bigger than you can imagine. Q. Yeah, and look at this. Who, me? You know that I dissolved dead kids in 55-gallon drums of muriatic acid at the Standard Hotel. And actually, there was 55-gallon drums of muriatic acid dumped into the plumbing system at the hotel. Why? I'd like to know. Sure you would too. So, and it looks like some of these tweets have been taken out. So, Anyway, there you go. And these are some reference articles. So, you can get to there through the link that I've provided in my notes. So if you want to delve into this any further, the links are there for you. Unfortunately, we are going to have to move along because it's already 8:50. I can't believe I've been talking that long, but I have. All right, and this from Abby D. Phillips. White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham claims Obama aides left "you will fail" notes in the offices for Trump aides. We came into the White House, I'll tell you something, every office was filled with Obama books, and we had notes left behind that said, "You will fail, you aren't going to make it." Isn't that interesting? These people are really, they have no class. The Obama administration, they looted our country. They sold us to the highest bidder. Obama's not even an American citizen. And they left behind, instead of saying congratulations, just wishing them well, no, they left them behind. They left a bunch of Obama books and notes behind saying, you will fail, you're not going to make it. That's lovely, isn't it? Such class, such absolute class. And this, President Trump says he'll strongly consider testifying in impeachment inquiry. I'm not going to get into this too much, but let me just go down here. President Trump responded to Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's invitation to appear before the Democrats' impeachment inquiry Monday, saying he'll strongly consider the option in order to get Congress focused again. Our crazy do-nothing, where's USMCA infrastructure, lowered drug pricing, and much more. Speaker of the House, nervous Nancy Pelosi, who is petrified by her radical left, knowing she will soon be gone, they and fake news media are her boss, suggested on Sunday's Deface the Nation that I testify about the phony impeachment witch hunt. She also said I could do it in writing, even though I did nothing wrong and don't like giving credibility to this no due process hoax. I like the idea and will, in order to get Congress focused again, strongly consider it, posted Trump on social media. Former U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, disappointed Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill Friday, telling Adam Schiff she has zero knowledge of any criminal activity by the President of the United States. Well, then what are you doing there? If you don't have any knowledge of anything he's done wrong, then why are you testifying? Why are you a witness? No, just asking for a friend. Do you have any information regarding any criminal activity that the President of the United States has been involved with at all? Asked GOP Representative Chris Stewart. No, replied the former diplomat. No, I don't. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go back now. Trying to get a few more in here in our time. But have no fear. There's more videos on the way this evening. All right, now, things that make you go, and things that make you go, well, that didn't look very sincere, did it? But really, this kind of, well, it makes me happy. I don't know about you guys, but not a lot yet on this, but, oh, I'm just seeing this. All right, breaking, 2 of Jeffrey Epstein's prison guards arrested. The 2 prison guards have reportedly pleaded not guilty, the AP reports. The 2 prison guards who were responsible for keeping watch over accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein on the night he commits suicide. Right. Inside his New York City jail cell have been arrested. The 2 unnamed guards are charged with falsifying prison records, according to the New York Times. The arrests are the first by federal investigators who have been investigating how Epstein was allowed to take his own life on August 10th inside a heavily guarded jail cell at the New York Metropolitan Correctional Center. Well, first of all, he didn't take his life. Now, do you know, I know people say, well, how do you know? Because Jeffrey Epstein was a narcissist, a classical narcissist. Narcissists do not take their own life. No, they don't. The guards allegedly did not check on Epstein every 30 minutes like they were supposed to and are accused of falsifying prison records to make it seem like they had. The New York City medical examiner concluded that Epstein died of suicide by hanging. Right. The guards were reportedly offered a plea deal but declined to take it. Epstein was arrested on July 6 and was awaiting trial on charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Now, what they should do with these prison guards, everybody that worked that night, every single person that worked that night, they should be checking their bank records. Every single one. Somebody was paid off to look the other way. Somebody was. Who is it? Who was it? Wouldn't it be kind of easy to tell by checking their bank statements? I'm just saying. Seems like a no-brainer to me. All right. Now, let's look at this. Again, this should make you, well, if you have anybody in your family that has served honorably in the military, this should make you very angry. Vindman gets a Purple Heart for an injury that allowed him to return to work the exact same day. Are you kidding me? Wow. Gives the meaning of a Purple Heart a new meaning. So sorry to the real heroes that actually earned it when you have people like this. Now, I wasn't aware of this, but apparently, so says Dennis and Laura, I don't know. Have any of you guys heard this, or are you aware of this? That he won a Purple Heart for an injury that he went right back to work the same day with? Yeah, well, I thought the Purple Heart was like something like huge, you know, that you did something really heroic, saved your fellow men or whatever, women, what have you. I don't know. Now, let's look at, well, we're almost out of time, but I'm going to try and get to a couple more because I've got so much stuff to get to tonight, and I don't know if I'll do it in 2 videos and plus the Q one or not, but we'll give it a good college try here. Alexander Vindman admits making up parts of Trump call summary. He admits it. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman admitted he made up elements of President Donald Trump's call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in an official summary. Prior to the call, Vindman included a discussion about corruption in the talking points provided to the president, but Trump did not use them in the call. The summary Vindman wrote after the call read, President Trump underscored the unwavering support of the United States for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders and expressed his commitment to work together with President-elect Zelensky and then Ukrainian people to implement reforms that strengthen democracy, increase prosperity, and root out corruption. But Vindman clarified during his testimony that the president did not bring up the topic of rooting out corruption during the phone call, but he included it in his summary of the call anyway. When asked by the Democrat, isn't that lying? It is. It's lying. When asked by the Democrat counsel about whether the summary he wrote was false, Vindman hesitated. That's not entirely accurate, but I'm not sure I would describe it as false. It was consistent with U.S. policy, Vindman said. What the heck? Like, is this guy some special kind of special? Like, you know, really? Well, that's not entirely accurate, but I'm not sure I would describe it as false. What would you guys describe it as? What would I describe it as? False. It was consistent with U.S. policy. Oh, what? Lying? Lying? Is that consistent with U.S. policy? Vindman said he included the rhetoric about corruption as a messaging platform to describe U.S. policy towards Ukraine, even though it was not discussed on the call. So, in other words, you put words into the president's mouth that he didn't say, kind of like Adam Schiff. Unbelievable. Seriously, unbelievable. Every day, it becomes more and more obvious how big a farce this is. I mean, we know it's a farce, but really, this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing that this is even occurring on U.S. soil. All right, let's go back now because I want to get to this by Donald Trump Jr. Now, I'm sure you have all by now, it's the fart heard round the world that Eric Swalwell, although he's now denying it, farted on national TV. Yes, he did. And now they're trying to say it was a cup moving across the desk. I don't think so. Now, here's the thing. He's all upset now. Well, everybody's talking more about the fart than they are about my politics. Well, gee. Yeah, because it's more interesting than your politics, and nobody cares about what you say or your politics. And here's the other thing, Eric Swalwell, you're so upset that this is false, yet everybody's reporting on it, but you don't seem to mind reporting anything false on Donald Trump, do you? No, that's okay, as long as it's him, not me. But I love this comment by Donald Trump Jr. He said, most intelligible thing to come out of Swalwell in years. I would agree. Now, I know I shouldn't play a fart for you, but I'm going to, because again, it is the fart heard around the world. Now, let's get the volume up here so that you can really hear it. I'm so glad we don't have smell-o-vision. Really, because I don't even want to know. I would not have wanted to been in the room or anywhere near him.
The evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from the evidence...
Now, notice that when he farts and he pauses, because I don't know if you can talk and fart at the same time. I've never tried. And it's really not something that I would want to try. And if you eat better, you won't be farting anyway. So anyway, that's the truth. Eric Swalwell, notice that he says, okay, watch this. Watch again. Come on, let's go again there, Swalwell. Come on. What's happening here?
Evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the complaint...
To ask the Ukrainians to cheat fart an election. He's pushing it out when he's saying that. Now, I don't know, but, and then look at the smile that comes across his face. He realizes, oops, that was loud. Yeah. And notice that he's lying. He's lying and he farts, okay? And he's all upset that everybody's making this big deal about the fart, which he says is false, that he didn't. But he has no problem with lying about the president right there, does he? But he's upset about people lying about the fart. I don't know if it's, maybe he didn't do it. I think he did. Because to me, it looks like obvious that he did. He pushed it out and then he went on with what he had to say. But anyway, Donald Trump Jr. said it's the most intelligible thing to come out of Swalwell in years. Yeah. I have to hand it to Trump because Trump didn't tweet. To my knowledge, Trump has not tweeted anything about the fart. And he could. He really could. But he hasn't so far. So, got to hand it to him. That's, I don't know if I would have that much, self-discipline to not say something. Well, I hope he felt better anyway. Now, let's look at this by Lee Zeldin. Pretty impressed by this guy. If Adam Schiff and LTC Vindman don't know who the whistleblower is, how would they know that naming the one person LTC Vindman spoke to in the intelligence community would out the whistleblower? Yeah, Schiff just made a complete hinder part of himself because he kept saying, no, that will out the whistleblower. Well, he says that he doesn't know who the whistleblower is, so how would he know? Right? And, Vindman said the same thing, and Vindman says he doesn't know who the whistleblower is. And he kept saying, well, I can't say that because it would out the whistleblower. But they both claim they don't know who the whistleblower is. So, I don't get it. I really don't. Well, I get it. They're lying. They both know who the whistleblower is. Everybody knows who the whistleblower is. They just like to keep pretending that nobody knows that it's a secret. It's no secret. All right. Now it's 9:06 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are on medication, yes, just a reminder. But I am going to call it quits here for this video, but I'm not calling it quits in totality. I will be back, and just like a bad smell, but not like that bad smell that we just heard from. Not like that at all. Actually, I always smell nice because I put perfume on before I record. I told you guys that. It's the stupidest thing I do. Well, maybe not the stupidest, but it's one of the stupid things I do because nobody can smell me, but automatically it's like I'm going out somewhere. I'll make sure my hair's in place and spray myself with perfume. It's crazy. Not as crazy as SCHIFF, but it's crazy. Definitely not as crazy as Pelosi. Nobody's that crazy. Well, maybe Maxine Waters. They each give each other a run for their money. But okay, so that's it. I'm going to sign off now, and I will see you guys later. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth because deception bites.